Hey everyone, I'm Tom and welcome to the Orange Chronicles, where I chronicle what I have been up to over the past week or so. And today is going to be a very heavy suneater day. Howling Dark is going to be the highlight, but I also do have two short stories that I am reading or have finished that I'm going to talk about as well. So let's go ahead and start with those short stories first. The first one being the one that I have finished so far, and this was my return back to the Wars of Light and Shadow series with The Child of Prophecy by Jenny Wirtz. This is one of the short stories that you can read. I believe you can read this one after you read the very first book in the series, Curse of the Mist Wraith. I had a good time with this. I think this is like 23 pages. So this is, one of those ones where I can't say too much without just spoiling anything. What I will say is this is once again a masterclass of Janny's ability of writing. In 23 pages, she gets you to care about a character immensely and just realize like the impact that life has had on them. And I think it's just once again highlighting how great she is at that. And I feel like I say that every time I read something from her, but her character work and her world building also is just on another level. This is obviously, this takes place as the Mist Wraith is taking over, which I don't feel like is a spoiler because that's what is going on in the first book. The Mist Wraith has taken over, and it's been like 400 years. This story happens like as the Mist Wraith is taking over, and it follows one specific character who ends up being pretty important overall. But once again, it's just beautiful writing. It's a good time, and you can get these on her website. I don't think they're on like just a Kindle shop or anything like that. I think you have to get them through her website, but they're like $2 or something. So definitely worth it if you are somebody who's reading the Wars of Light and Shadow series. I do highly recommend picking up the short stories. This is only the second one I've read. I've read this one in the Gallant, and I plan on reading a couple more before I return to the main series. I think there's 4 or 5 at this point or 3. I think there's 3 at this point that I can read going into book 5. So that's what I'm going to do before I get back into book 5. And I definitely recommend that you do it as well. It's like, just building out the world a little bit and everything else. But, 23 pages, you can fly through it super quick, probably faster than me. Anything that I physically read takes me longer, but I'm sure most people will be able to finish it much faster than I am. But then next up, we have a book that was not on my radar at all. It's not a book, it's a short story. I think it's even shorter than this. It might be like 17 or 20 pages, so just a little bit shorter than Child of Prophecy by Jenny Wirtz. But that is After the Animal Flesh Begins by Brian Evanson. And I saw this from Chanel on Chanel Chapters, and she was just talking about how this is a weird book. And I don't know, it just sounded super interesting. So very, very basic premise. I'm only a couple pages into this one, but I'll finish it one later tonight. It's robots, and it seems like the premise is that humans are gone, right? And so you have robots that are like reproducing, and it seems like kind of a post-apocalyptic story that is going to really delve a lot into parenthood and maybe like raising children and stuff. I don't know. It's kind of dark, just through the little bit that I have read. Like a robot offs itself at some point, and it just I don't know. That's very very like at the beginning of the story, so I don't know too much what's going to happen. But it is definitely seems a little bit dark and messed up. But I'm excited to finish that one and just see. I don't know. I like to read some weird stuff, especially when it's as short as something like this is. It's an interesting thing to just like look at what an author has in their mind and see what weird stuff can happen out there in reading, because I think a lot of us read a lot of what I would consider well-known normal stuff, and this seems to be a little bit outside of that for sure. But now, with all of that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the big one for this week. That is Howling Dark by Christopher Rocchio. And I'm technically not even done with this. I had 100% planned on finishing this book before I recorded this video. And then last night while I was reading, at the very, very end of this book, I had like an hour left in the audiobook. So people who have read this story probably know what I'm going to be alluding to here. But something massive happens towards the end of this book. And when it happened, I just was blown away, and I just had to stop. My brain was just scattered, and I could not just like comprehend what was going on. And I have just thought this book is so good. This book has been fantastic, and multiple times it has just completely blown me away. There are two scenes, one I just alluded to, and one that happens. It's so hard to talk about it because I don't want to spoil it anything. But there's a conversation that happens. I think is maybe if you have read this, you'll know what conversation I'm talking about. But that it happens in this book, and when I was listening to it, I had to stop listening and just sit there and be like, what is going on, but like in the best possible way, not in a I'm not understanding this, but just in a wow, I can't believe this is happening. And I have multiple times texted my fiance and just been like, this book is so good. Like it has just been blowing me away the entire time. I have found the expansion of this world to be really interesting. We're getting to see and experience more and more things in this vast, this is a vast world, and I'm glad that we're it's growing and growing and growing. And I'm assuming that it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow even more, which is something I'm very much looking forward to in that space opera kind of way. I want to experience as much as this galaxy or galaxies has to offer, all these planets and everything that's going on. We're getting to see some of that weird stuff again, which I think is just amazing. And then also, in the first book, I think you're supposed to think this, I found Hadrian to be a very, like, he's a spoiled, idealistic brat, but like in the best kind of way. And he's still very much that. The melodrama that he talks about in himself is very much still evident, and all of the dramatics and the theater of it. But something about Hadrian in this book, especially towards the end again, is I find a lot of times in books there are things that I think characters should do or say, even if they don't 100% feel that way. It's almost like, hey, it's like a duty thing almost, where you have to do something even if you don't really want to. I think there are a couple of different times in some really dark and twisted ways that Hadrian does that in the story, but for me it just works so well, and it's just has been such an amazing journey. And I'm so excited to see what comes next. Like I said, I technically haven't finished this yet. I'm going to finish 2 of these things today, but I just was like, I had to like take a break because I was like, wow, this is just so amazing. And I was just like so caught up in what was going on that I just like had to like simmer with it for a little while. And so Howling Dark has just been absolutely fantastic. It's probably going to be my book of the month, and we're not even like, I haven't even read that much yet, but I can't imagine it not being at this point. And I'm just so excited to see where this series continues, because I think the last couple things I read are just going to blow this series open to be something so much more than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a much more straightforward space opera kind of thing. And I think we are definitely going a little bit more into the realm of the weird and the strange. And that is something that I'm excited for if it happens. And then honestly, even if it doesn't, I'm still here for this story. I just need to see what happens with Hadrian's journey. I know that I've known for a long time that I thought the series was going to be one I liked. And man, people keep telling me it only really gets better from here. Like, people were like, oh yeah, I mean, Empire of Silence is good, but like Howling Dark is even better. But then it gets even better from there. And so I mean, this seems like it's going to be an all-timer for me, and that is just absolutely fantastic there with Howling Dark. I mean, I guess something crazy could happen in this last hour or so of this book, but I can't see it erasing how great I thought it has been so far. Just the politicking, the characters, the world, just everything about it is coming up like amazing for me. And so it's stealing the show. It's stealing my reading year. I've read some really other great things this year, and I don't know if this like one individual book is going to bump some of my favorite reads off of this year so far, but this just reminds me of like being back into a massive series. Like, it reminds me of being back in The Expanse a little bit, because like I love being in that world and like the space opera-ness of it, and like I'm getting the same kind of vibes here, and it's just, yeah, I don't know. I could ramble on a little bit here about how great this has been. I know a lot of people are kind of trying to read it right now. It seems like to catch up for the ending, and so that is obviously what I'm trying to do. So, I should be caught up by the time the last book comes out in November, and I'm very much looking forward to that. But that is all of my novel reading. I'm going to go ahead and transition over to comics and everything now. And my one comic, and this is a lot of comics, was I finished the Invincible Compendium #1, which was like, so like if like each, it's broken up into individual issues and stuff in there. It must have been like 40-ish issues that I read to finish it before it had to go back to the library again. And I just want to say, if you have not really gotten into comics, but you have watched the TV show, I would say you should definitely read the comic. It's a lot of fun. It's a very, very similar story, but there are some like key differences that I think are interesting. I don't know if I like the show more or if I like the comics more at this point. I think I would lean a little bit more towards the show, because some of the things that they change, I think the story works a little bit better. But in general, I think, man, this is just like an awesome series. I'm glad I'm reading it. If you haven't read it, you definitely should. If you haven't watched it, I think you really should. It's a more, I don't want to call it adult, because I think that has like a certain connotation to it, but it's a more mature kind of comic, superhero comic, and it's playing on some of the tropes of like there still being the good guys and the bad guys, but like, I don't know, a little bit more realistic. You do have actually, I'm not going to say that, it's a little bit of a spoiler. If you know nothing about the series, I think it's a really good reveal for a certain character. But there's just some like really fun things that it plays around with. It's a lot of fun, and I'm glad that I'm reading it. I'm going to definitely continue on some of my DC comics as well, so that is definitely going to be some stuff they're going to be seeing from me here in the future. And at some point, I will get back to manga. I know, have not read manga. Comics have really taken over for me recently, because I was getting in the mood for the Superman movie, and then I just was reading some great comics, and now I'm reading even more great comics, and so it has just kind of pushed manga back down a little bit. But I'm comics have been great. Invincible has also been fantastic. So between it and Howling Dark, it has just been a great reading week for me. And then quickly, I do just want to finish up with what I have been watching, and this week has just been coming up all me. There was the UFC fights. Unfortunately, Duplessis did not win, whatever. But we saw two spinning back fists in the same, or not spinning back fists, back elbows, two spinning elbows back to back. Crazy. I think it had like happened 5 times in the UFC, and then we get 2 in one night. Insane. Uh, NFL football is back. I don't care. That's the preseason. I still watch it. It's insane. And then we also had the Strongest Man on Earth, which is Brian Shaw's competition that he puts on in Loveland, Colorado, that I have been watching. Technically, day 2 has not happened yet, but I'm very excited. It has been a great competition so far. Trey Mitchell is currently winning, who is like one of my favorite strongman. He's looking like he could win. You never know what's going to happen on day 2, but he's in a pretty commanding lead going in. He probably needs a couple more points separating him in second going into the very last event, because I don't think it'll be one of his better ones. But man, it's just been an awesome competition. It's been an awesome week, reading wise, watching wise, just everything has been very solid this week. So that has been my week. I would love to hear about yours down below in the comments. What have you been reading, watching, any of that fun stuff? Anything you think I'm missing out on and I need to have on my radar? I'm always up for a good recommendation. As always, you can also hit me up on the Discord that will be linked down below in the description as well. But that's all for me. And to remember, read what you want when you want.